To the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides, and as always, I am joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Kevin, how are you on this Labor Day night?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. It's the sad reality of my real day job is now kicking in as we are back tomorrow. But nonetheless, I am looking forward to a good year in a new building, which is always exciting. But nonetheless, that reality is setting in tonight, the night before the first day of school. Now, before we do get started here, I do want to remind you that if you're in the market to sell your current home, purchase your next home, purchase your first home, or refinance, give our good friend Herb Devine a call at 781 254 2846. You can also shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, Herb has the knowledge and the know how to help guide you through what could be a difficult process. Again, give him a call at 781 254 2846, or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. All right, it's game week for the New England Patriots. Of course, Kevin, you were up there today for practice. Patriots also announcing their team captains today as well. You also got an opportunity to see Mike Vrabel speak. Patriots kick off the regular season on Sunday at home against the visiting Las Vegas Raiders. And, look, I think a lot is made about this game, and this is technically Mike Vrabel's first game as a head coach of the Patriots. We've gotten a pretty good glimpse of what this football team is going to be this summer via training camp in these preseason games. Obviously, there's been a lot of roster shuffling the past week or so, a lot of guys coming and going. What were your impressions of what you saw today, and just some introductory thoughts on week one of the NFL season kicking off this week? Again, as I mentioned, with the Patriots hosting the Raiders.
Well, first of all, it's about time. I don't know about you, but this has felt like a longer, wait in between training camp and the season than years past. I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's nice to be talking about real football again. This weekend we had college. It was nice to talk about real games again. So just that aspect of it, we have the Thursday night game this week, obviously, and again, real stuff to talk about. But in terms of the captains, I thought it was cool, the way he told the team today, called them up. Each guy got a little ovation, and then it was right into team drills, and, off we go. So business-like as usual, pretty much what we've seen throughout training camp. And I actually asked him today, because I find it interesting. It's a really young roster. Like, yeah, you have a lot of veterans, but it's a really, really young roster. And there's going to be a lot of guys that have a significant impact early in their careers. So I'm curious to see kind of what the messaging is throughout the week. And he said, look, he wants it to be emotional for them, right? Like, it's a big time for those guys in their lives, but there's also the aspect of, honing in and making sure you're locked in. But he also said there's going to be stuff that comes up. And this as a coach that they're not prepared for. Like, there's just going to be things you can't go over until it happens. So I'm really curious to see how the young players, well, really just the team in general, handles any adversity early on. Because I think you're going to learn a lot about the team. I know it's only one game, but, say they go down 14-0 at home, week one, after all the hype in the regular season or during the offseason, well, then what? So I thought that was interesting today that he said that. But in terms of the team in general, it was very businesslike. The one thing I am concerned about, though, is Christian Gonzalez.
I don't think he's going to play.
I don't
I
either.
really don't.
And if you listen to Vrabel's tone today in particular, when answering the question, they're kind of not steering away from it, but they don't want to go near it if they can help it. So
Well, I don't think it matters whether they go near it or not. I think it's pretty safe to say that he's not going to play.
Feels that way.
It feels Wednesday, that way, and it's felt that way now for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Wednesday's obviously the biggest day. That's the first injury report day, but it would have been nice to see.
We very well could be wrong. And to your point, Wednesday's the big day, but it's not trending in that direction. It hasn't been really for the last 2 weeks. I think when the injury happened, I think there were a lot of people that thought, all right, you know what, he sits out a couple of weeks here, sits out the rest of the preseason. He'll be back for Vegas. But you never got the sense that was going to be the case.
No, I thought for sure you'd see him last week, if not today, especially today. But yeah, technically Wednesday's the big one. But you just hope he's not making any business decisions already. I hope that's not what it is, and
No,
they're
I
just
don't think
being.
so. Yeah.
No, I don't either. I hope they're just being very careful. But on the good point, well, the good thing is receiver wise, you don't have much to worry about with Vegas, but you would like to see the full complement of players out there. So overall, I'm encouraged by what or sort of where they stand heading into Sunday, but that's the one big one still.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I think that they're in a pretty good spot. I think this is a favorable matchup for them. I think this is a game that can win. They can win. I have felt that all along since their schedule was released. To your point, you don't necessarily have to worry about that number one receiver per se with this Vegas team. You have old friend Jacoby Myers that they did sign or re-sign, I should say, Amari Cooper, but they don't really have that guy that he needs to move around with and match up with. All that being said, though, you still want him healthy, you still want him back, and I think the important thing is not to rush him. If he's not ready this week, but yet you can get him ready for next week against Miami or when Pittsburgh comes to town, fine, I'm all in on that. But it is a little discouraging that he hasn't practiced yet. And again, we don't know officially, so we don't want to speculate as to whether he's playing or not, but it's not trending in that direction. And as I said earlier, I don't think it's been trending in that direction now for a while. Now, as far as the Las Vegas Raiders are concerned on paper, as I mentioned, you don't really have that perimeter threat, but Brock Bowers is one of the three best tight ends in the game. He's a matchup problem. He had a phenomenal rookie season last year. He's looking to follow up on that. Chip Kelly's going to have a lot of fun moving him around in formations and trying to create matchups with him. You also have rookie running back Austin Gentry, who I think has a potential to be a top 10 back in this league as a rookie. He certainly has the physical traits. We all know what he did at Boise State. He had a prolific career there. Insert veteran quarterback Geno Smith, who the Raiders traded a third-round pick for this offseason to reunite with Pete Carroll. And the one thing I think Geno Smith is going to do for them, while he's not an elite-level quarterback, Kevin, I think he gives them some stability at the position, something that the Raiders have lacked for a while now. So I think he stabilizes things at least for this year. But on paper, and Jacoby Myers had a really good year last year, but on paper, this Raiders offense can present some problems to the Patriots, especially with offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, his creativity, and his ability to use his pieces.
Yeah, I mean, on Geno Smith, he came in here and won last year
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Week
overtime.
two. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's no slouch by any means. Jetty, I'm worried about because if you remember right, I know it's preseason and I know, it really wasn't the starters for a while. They had trouble tackling in the open field. And they didn't practice too a little bit. So again, trying to bring Genty down isn't easy. The Bowers thing, it feels like that's where Jabril Peppers would have came into play, maybe. In terms of getting physical with him. I know he probably can't run with him, but um, you're now to my point earlier, there's going to be some young guys like a Craig Woodson who's going to get tested early now because of Bowers. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. I'm with you though. Just even on the flip side, the Patriots offense, I think they can score. That's the biggest thing.
Well, we'll transition to that.
Yeah, yeah,
I was going to say,
yeah.
I think for the Patriots defensively, the big thing is, like it is every week, I don't care what level it is, I don't care what week it is, you've got to win the line of scrimmage. And I think that it's paramount that the Patriots win the line of scrimmage. If they can win the line of scrimmage and get the Raiders into some long down situations, second and long, third and long, put the game in Geno Smith's hands because, yes, I know Genty's a rookie. Yes, I know Geno Smith is a proven commodity, a quarterback, but I still want to get these guys into long down situations and make him have to throw to win because I think it's going to take Chip Kelly out of his comfort zone. I think if the Raiders have their way and Pete Carroll's going to want to play this way, just like he did in Seattle, establish that physical ground game, control the clock, and then play action off of that and take shots off of that in the vertical passing game. I think that's going to be their preference. But if the Patriots can control the line of scrimmage, win first down, get them in a second and long, third and long, keep them in those situations throughout the game, I think their defense could have some success. The Patriots pass rush is still sus. I think we all agree with that. Yeah, you have Landry. Yeah, you have Chase on. Yeah, you have Keon White. But there's still question marks about that pass rush. I think, in my view, I'm okay with that pass rush as long as they can win situations and get them into those long down situations. Now, offensively, look, you got to first and foremost, you got to contend with Max Crosby, and how the Patriots plan on handling him will be key here. My sense is that the Raiders are going to try to get Crosby on Morgan Moses as much as possible. All that being said, this Raiders defense is not elite. They don't have elite level talent at all three levels. Crosby aside, they don't really have elite level talent. I think that this is a really favorable matchup for the Patriots offense. Key early on is get the backs going, get Stevenson going, get Henderson going, get Gibson going, and then get Drake May into a rhythm. Three-step game, perimeter screens. Josh McDaniels, when it comes to getting his quarterback into a rhythm, is as good as any coordinator in the league. So early on, make the game easy for Drake. Give him some easy throws early on and establish that running game. I think if the Patriots do that, they could potentially have their way with this Raiders defense, which, Kevin, I think is below average. To call them mediocre, I think, would be generous.
Yeah, I think Vrabel is too good of a coach to let Max Crosby single-handedly beat you. So is he going to get some? Like, can he bring Drake May down 3, 4 times? Probably. Like, I wouldn't be surprised in the least. But overall, to your point, I think they
I
can.
mean, if he sacks him 3 or 4 times, the Patriots are in for a long day.
Yeah, well, see, I would say like 6 or 7. Well, 6 or 7 a lot. I'd say like 5 or 6. Then you're in trouble. But I feel like 3 or 4 might be sort of automatic, but you can work through it. No,
Well, no, I mean, you don't. Here's the thing.
you don't want it to happen, obviously.
Right. If Max Crosby gets 4 sacks, I think the Raiders are going to win the game. I mean, 4 sacks is a hell of a game, man.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Even for Max Crosby. So,
Yeah,
no. Yeah.
I,
I mean, if you can hold him to 1 or 2 sacks, fine. But if he gets 4 or more, let's say, you're in for a long afternoon. Your
yeah,
offensive line blows at that point. I mean, and again, Crosby's a hell of a player, but if
yeah.
he gets 4 or 5 sacks, you're screwed. You might as well
Well,
not bother showing up for week 2. Pack up the tents, call it a year.
so I may have overstated, but my general point is, I do think he's going to get some on this
Oh yeah,
offensive line,
yeah.
but I also think they're going to be okay in the sense that they can still score
Well, I think he's going
points.
to get pressure, and again, I
But
think he can
yes,
get to May a couple times.
yeah,
But yeah, he'll definitely get pressure. I mean, he's one of the best defensive players in the league. I mean,
right.
I don't think anybody's surprised that he's gonna if he comes in here and plays well.
No, but in general, I think they can score in the secondary, and I also think people are underrating this receiving core. Mac Hollins is going to be good. People are going to be surprised what they see out of him. We didn't see him in the preseason. We were lucky enough to see him in practice, and um, he's going to surprise some people. We haven't seen a full go Diggs yet. We haven't seen what Josh McDaniels truly has in store for a Pop Douglas in this offense. So I'm encouraged by that receiving core. I know I don't have a ton of reason to be in terms of game action, but just from what we've seen, I think they're going to be pretty good, especially against this Raiders secondary. So I could see them scoring 27 points, maybe 30. I think you have to get to 24 to win basically every week, but I think they win this game, 31-17 ish, something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, again, I just don't think this Raiders team is very good. I think that
No,
they're going to be pretty good offensively. I just think defensively they have too many question marks. 31 might be a little too rich for my taste in terms of a prediction, but I can see the Patriots winning this game 24-17, 24-14. I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think the Patriots are exponentially better to where they're going to blow them out. They're better. They're going to be better coached. So I do think it's a situation where they can win this game, but I'm not quite sure they're there yet at a place where they can win by 2 scores or more. But certainly, again, they are good enough that they can win this game, and I ultimately think they will. You say 31-17. I'm picking the Patriots to open up the season with a big 24-14 win and give Mike Vrabel his first win as Patriots coach. Old friend Ken Matthias joins the show. Thanks for checking in, Ken. How surprised were the both of you with the Peppers release and the fact that Vrabel said it wasn't a scheme issue? Any possible thoughts on what happened internally, on what internally was the issue? Ken, you're a genius, my friend. You always help us segue. We appreciate that. I was going to bring up Peppers next now that we got our Raiders preview out of the way. And Kevin, I never believed that this was a scheme issue. I think Peppers Peppers is a good player. I think the reaction to him getting released has been a bit dramatic. He's a good player. I don't think he's an elite level player. He's a guy that can do certain things well, but I'm not sure that he's a guy that can have so much on his plate, meaning be a three by three safety where he plays three downs at all three levels. I don't think he's that player anymore. I think he can do certain things. Look, it's like the Transformers to me here, Stone. There's more than meets the eye here. I don't think it's a scheme issue. I think that this is more of a locker room cleanse the palate type of thing where Vrabel really just wants to start over with his guys, his culture. And we don't know. We're not there. So I'm just throwing this out there. I'm spitballing here. But if Peppers, let's say hypothetically, wasn't buying into this new culture, if Vrabel didn't get that vibe, maybe that's why this move was made ultimately.
See, it's weird because it feels like he did. They would go back and forth when, when Vrabel would have the 5 penny on, during early portions of camp, and they'd joke around. But so I was surprised in terms of, you need a veteran leader back there and a good communicator. I know you have Duggar, but I thought Peppers was their best communicator. But he felt like a Vrabel guy. Like, that's where the surprise came for me. You've been on this not being a scheme thing for a while, so I sort of came around to your side on that. You obviously know better than I would, but um, I was surprised just again because of you're not really in a spot unless they really trust Woodson and really trust Hawkins. I just feel like you needed that veteran voice back there. But to your point, if he wasn't, or if he was not buying in to the culture overall, then he's got to go. So, um,
and again, we don't know that. I don't want to
no, of
speculate
course.
that he wasn't buying into the culture.
No, I think he was.
But well, then why do you release him? If he was buying into the culture, then why do you release him?
See,
You don't
that's
release a
where
guy a week before the season starts, a veteran player nonetheless, at an important position in your scheme if he's buying in.
no. So I'm with you there. That's why I thought today was particularly interesting when Vrabel was talking about it. I don't want to say he was passing the buck, but he was really sort of complimentary of Peppers and really said, he kept saying we're trying to get this right collectively. So I wonder if this wasn't fully his call, which wouldn't make sense because it
Who,
has been.
who else's call would it be?
That's what again. I'm
I mean,
sort of talking through it.
he steers the ship here. This is
Yeah,
his
no,
ship.
that's again.
He's the captain.
Yeah, no, I'm just sort of talking through it here. It doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. The only thing that would make sense is the fact that they just want to get younger and faster. And that's fair. I mean, look, he's obviously a step or two slower than he's been in years past, and so is Duggar. Um, but now you're heavily relying on Craig Woodson and Jalen Hawkins. So I was surprised by it, but I also do feel like Vrabel is not the kind of coach who's just going to boot a good veteran player out to the curb unless they have a backup plan or truly believe in what they have in those young kids.
Yeah, they obviously believe in what they have in those guys, and I think a lot of this is monetary as well. I think
Sure.
it's also a
Yeah.
money thing, but again, you are putting yourself in a tough spot here because now when you look at that safety room, you have Duggar, you have Woodson, you have Hawkins, you have Pettis. There isn't a lot there outside of you don't know what you have in Woodson yet. I do think he's going to be a good player, but in terms of experience, outside of Duggar, you don't have a lot of starter experience here. So you're putting a lot on Pettis. You're putting a lot on Hawkins, guys that were special teamers for you last year. Those guys are going to take on bigger roles now. Let's not forget Schooler as well. He would be in the mix as well. Don't be surprised if he plays more snaps than we think. We saw it last year where DeMarcus Covington used him a lot more on sub packages and got him playing time on defense. He wasn't just a special teams guy. So it was surprising, but for me, I think ultimately it comes down to money. I think it comes down to culture, and I think it comes down to fit in terms of off the field in the locker room. Again, we're not there, but I would suspect that maybe they didn't jive with each other, and then when you factor in the money, maybe that's when Vrabel, Cowden, and Stretch, who we assume are the key decision makers, maybe that's when they made the decision that, hey, you know what? It's time to move on. Ken checks back in. Who would step in his place? Hawkins. Could Duggar move back to safety? Well, Duggar is a safety. The question is, do they trust Duggar enough? And again, let's not kid ourselves here. Duggar is still on this team because nobody wants to take on that contract. They tried to move him. They couldn't. They're stuck with him. They're holding on to him. They're going to try to carve out a role for him and use him as best they can. But make no mistake about it, Duggar's not that free range, over the top, rotating safety that can cover a lot of ground. That's just not his game. He's a guy that has to play downhill and in the box. So I think for me, the guys that could step up and fill his spot are Woodson and Hawkins. Woodson in particular, I think, plays a lot more now because I think he's a guy that can play downhill, but I also think he's a guy that can rotate over the top and play over the top as a free safety. So I think Woodson is ultimately the beneficiary of Peppers being cut. Hawkins probably plays more in sub packages. Pettis offers him some 3-level versatility in that he can play in the slot. He can play on the second and third level. So I would imagine that it's an increased role for him. But overall, I think, again, the biggest beneficiary of all this is going to be Craig Woodson. I think he's going to get the most playing time. Joe Celia checks in. Hold on, Joe. I think I lost you there. Thanks for checking in, brother. Says, I wonder if they're sold on Craig Woodson too. Absolutely. I think they're 100% sold on Woodson.
You could see it early on, too.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I agree. I don't think they make this move if they weren't sold on Craig Woodson. They absolutely believe that Craig Woodson is ready to play and play meaningful snaps. And I think that's why ultimately they made the move. Ken checks back in. How concerned are you guys about Gonzalez being potentially out for beyond week 1? I'm pretty concerned. I'm of the belief he's out this week, but I'm pretty concerned. Hamstrings are funny, man. Yeah. And if it's a bad hamstring injury, they tend to linger. I've been around football for 30 years as a coach in media, but as a coach, I've seen a lot of hamstring injuries as a college football coach, high school football coach. Depending on the severity of the injury, they do tend to linger. You got to take your time with them. So I would not be surprised if he was out more than a week. Again, we're not there. We're not privy to the trainer information, but based on what I know about hamstrings, they can be tricky.
So I agree with you, but let me ask you this. That first injury report comes out on Wednesday, and he doesn't practice. What if he practices Thursday, Friday? Does he play? Probably, right?
You would think so, yeah.
And so I'm just curious if we get a little Belichick fudging of the injury report at all, or if this is legit. I do think it's legit. And to go back to the question, I am worried too. How can you not be? At this point, again, brand new culture, brand new defense, everybody feeling good. You'd like to have your all-pro corner there too. So just the fact that he hasn't been out there, he's been out there with his teammates, but not really. You know what I mean? So I am concerned long-term.
Yeah, so am I. We do have another comment here. Ken says, would Carlton Davis be CB1? Yeah, he'd be your number 1 corner. And if you decide you want to play the matchup game with him this week, then you move him around. Now, it becomes a bigger issue next week when you go to Miami because they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're a much different team to match up against. It's not so much about Brock Bowers as much as it is about those receivers. The other thing is, the reason you want a Christian Gonzalez back, and there's a million of them, but another reason you want him back is this week you probably could have used Carlton Davis on Brock Bowers if he's detached, if he's in the slot, if he's lining up wide. You probably could have matched Davis up with him. So they're still probably going to do that, I suspect, but it probably limits your flexibility in terms of what you can do from a matchup standpoint if Bowers is in line. Again, the Raiders, I don't think are going to use Bowers in line a ton. But I think if he's split out wide, I think they're going to try to match up Carlton Davis on him. Could Marcus Jones see an expanded role with Gonzalez being out? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so same thing with Alex Austin.
Yeah.
I think these guys are going to see more playing time now for sure. Absolutely. I'd be remiss if before we wrap up our Patriots talk here and move on to college, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up Micah Parsons. Of course, he gets traded to the Green Bay Packers for defensive tackle Kenny Clark, 2 number 1 picks, a 26 and 27 first-round pick. I didn't think that Jerry Jones had it in him to trade him. I didn't see it happening. I thought that eventually they would find some common ground and probably at the very least get a bridge deal done to take it into either next offseason or the offseason after that. It didn't happen. Obviously, it had gotten contentious to the point where Parsons was openly showing his displeasure, Of course, he's laying on the trainer's table during their last preseason game, supposedly taking a nap.
Eating nachos too.
He did eating nachos. He did enough to force Jerry Jones' hand. Jerry Jones then trades him to the rival Green Bay Packers. Obviously, the Cowboys and the Packers have a storied history in the playoffs, especially. He trades him to the Green Bay Packers, who, according to Jones, met the requisite criteria. They had cap space. They wanted a defensive tackle in return. Kenny Clark's been a very good one in this league for a long time. And they were willing to give up the draft compensation, and they got it done. Now, one of the things I saw, the reason I bring this up is not because I'm a Packers shareholder and fan and that I want to gloat, not it at all. Although I will say, whenever I could say I'm an owner, whenever we have landed an impact defensive player, Reggie White, Charles Woodson, you know the rest. Patriot fans seem pretty pissed off that the Patriots didn't make a run at him. I think they should be pissed off. I think the Patriots had no excuse not to make a run at him. I think that they should have made a run at him. Now, again, that's not to say that they didn't. We don't know if they did or they didn't. They didn't get him. So even if they did make a run at him, Kevin, they didn't do enough to get him. Were you surprised that we didn't hear that the Patriots were in on him?
No, I'm more surprised that you thought they should be. You can't afford to lose those draft picks right now. Would I have liked it? Yeah, of course. Everybody would have. He's a game-changing player, but we've
And that's
talked
why
about
you
this.
give up the ones. And I know why you're surprised that
Yeah,
I'm saying this
yeah,
because I'm such a hoarder of draft picks.
right,
And
right.
my philosophy in this league is simple. You build through the draft.
Correct.
Free agency supplements what you did through the draft. All that being said, though, this is an organization that has acted this offseason as if they believe they can be a playoff team this year. You go out and get the best coach on the market. You go out and spend the most of any team on the market. So since you're doing that, my belief is your intention is that you're going to compete for a playoff spot this year. If that's the case, go out and make a run at the guy and really do whatever it takes to get the guy. He's not even in his prime yet. He just turned 26. He's entering his prime. Go out and get the guy. Again, they could have made a run at him. Who knows? But that's a guy that you target and you say, he changes everything for us. He's worth giving up those 2 future first-round picks, and I really think he is.
So I hear you there, but I'll counter that with Green Bay is close to a Super Bowl. That's a ad so we can go
Yes,
win a.
and I think that's a very valid point. They're further
So
along.
yeah, so you can if you're Green Bay, that's a guy that puts you over the top. The Patriots, I'm not sure.
Jordan Love's got to play better. He's got to get
Of
his head out of
course,
his ass to start.
but as a plane goes by my window, but I'm not sure if you go get him.
I have no idea how that's relevant to the conversation.
I thought you could hear it. I was
Oh,
apologizing.
no.
Okay. Well, yes, they're acting like they can go, make a playoff run, but I'm not sure Parsons gets you any farther than you would go already this year. You know what I mean? In terms of making a run at the Super Bowl. So I hear what you're saying, but in your case, and I'm saying you're as a Green Bay, Packer fan, owner, whatever, he put you closer to a title than I think he would have here. That's all. So
I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And again, given their history, and I don't want to put the cart before the horse. The NFC is really good. I still think Philadelphia is the best team in the conference.
Yep.
You still got San Francisco. You still got Detroit. You still got Minnesota. You still got Washington. Chicago's coming. Like, you've got legitimate competition within your own division. I mean, the NFC North might be the best division in the NFL right now. So all of that being said, in their history, when they've gone out and gotten that impact defensive player to fortify the defense and complement the offense, the last 2 times they did it, they won Super Bowls. So, yes, you're right. The Packers are closer. But all that being said, if you want to take that next step and get closer, the Patriots could have used him, and I hope they made a run at him. And we'll never know, but I hope they made a run at him because that's the type of player that changes a trajectory of your franchise relatively quickly. And remember now, we're talking about the NFL. The NFL is still a quick fix league. It's not like baseball where you still need a lot of these guys to marinate in the minors for 2 or 3 years. It's not like the NBA where once you get outside the top 10 or 12 picks, it's very hit or miss as to whether or not you're going to get an impact player. It's not like the NHL draft where it's kind of the same thing. So for me, the NFL is still a relatively quick fix league. I would hope at the very least they were in on him. You are
So,
watching, and you go ahead.
no, I just want to ask you real quick. Are you worried he's damaged goods? You get the reports today that he might be having an injection before week 1.
Am I worried? No, he may not
Just
play
asking.
this. He may not play fully healthy this season, but
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. Listen. I have full confidence in our president, Ed Policy.
Did they
By the way,
call you, by the way?
If Mark Murphy's still president of the Packers, they don't make this trade.
Did
And,
they
and I think the world of Murph, but they don't make this trade. This is Ed Policy saying, I'm moving my chips in. We're going to make a run here. Look, they're still the youngest team in the NFL. That's the scary thing. If this team
Yeah.
stays healthy and plays to their potential, they're the youngest team in the NFL. So
Did they call all of you just to make sure
they
it was
did
okay?
not. But the last time they won it during the 2010 season, they were at that time either the youngest team in the league or one of the youngest. Now, at that time, there were also a lot of people that thought that they could be on the precipice of being a dynasty, and it didn't happen. All of that being said, Ed Policy, this is his move. He decided to go to Brian Gutekunst and say, make the move. I'm okay with it, man. Listen, I'm a draft picks guy. We've established that.
But
All
those
that
are
being
late picks,
said,
though.
what's that?
Those are late picks.
Those
Like,
are
that's,
late.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. They're late round picks. If you have the success you're expecting to have in Green Bay, those are going to be picks in the 25 to 32 range. And yes, you could still get a very good player there. Don't get me wrong. Dallas is going to benefit from this trade long term. All that being said, the Packers are on the doorstep of Super Bowl contention. If you can keep Parsons healthy and he comes in, plays well under old friend Jeff Hafley in that scheme, which I think he will, he's going to be fine. Am I worried about the back? No, it could be something where he might miss a couple of games, but as long as he's there at the end of the year when they need him and they're making that playoff push, I'll be happy. And yes, to answer your question, Stone, Ed Policy did reach out to me and I signed off on the trade. Yes.
I don't blame you.
The Johnny Hancock. I attempted to whistle there. I can whistle, folks. I don't know why it didn't come out that well there, but I can whistle. Hold on. See, I can whistle.
Yeah.
You are watching the New England Football Show presented by Mortgage Right. I'm your host, John Sarianides. As always, I'm joined by my partner, Kevin Stone. Just a reminder, if you're in the market to purchase your first home, next home, or refinance, give our good buddy Herb Devine a call, 781-254-2846. Or you could shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. With over 27 years of experience, he has the knowledge and the know-how to guide you through this process. Again, give him a call at 781-254-2846. Or you can shoot him an email at herb@mortgageright.com. He and his team are available anytime, including nights and weekends. And we want to wish Coach Devine good luck this week as the Scituate Sailors open up their 2025 campaign on Friday night against a very good Westerly Bulldogs team that's coming up from Rhode Island in one of the marquee interstate matchups. And by the way, we're still trying to find someone that we can get in the area to go down and cover that game for us. So we hope to have coverage of that game for you. We will either way, but we're hoping to get somebody down there. But again, we want to wish Coach Devine and the Sailors good luck as they kick off the 2025 season and defend their Division IV state title. He has a good squad coming back. All right, college football season kicked off this weekend with week 1 of the college football season here in New England. Some pretty interesting scores. Of course, you were at Boston College. Eagles trouncing the Fordham Rams 66-10. I kind of think we thought that something like this was going to happen. This isn't a surprise.
No, they did what good teams are supposed to do. The only thing I was surprised about was they were throwing the ball up 50 with about 155 to go. So, aside from that, you have to be encouraged if you're a fan. You saw every single thing that you needed to see, except for 2 things. One, the running game struggled, and I was surprised by that, especially against the Fordham team, who it's Fordham. Like, BC should not struggle up front against them to push them around. And on the flip side, the pass rush. There really wasn't a pass rush when in camp, which might speak volumes about both sides. There was a consistent pass rush every single day. So they're going to need both of those things again on the road against Michigan State in a hostile environment on national TV. So Other than that, you saw what you needed to see from both quarterbacks. Grayson James was 5 for 5 for 190 and a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Dylan Lonergan had 4 touchdowns in 3 quarters. Your best players were your best players. Lewis Bond had 11 for, I want to say, 138 and a touchdown. Jaden Skeet got in the end zone. He was open a lot. If you go back and watch that game, he was open almost every single play. So, but tight ends got involved. Defense was, pretty damn good. You got a pick six. You got a pump block from a local guy, Charlie Carmella. Bo McCormick got in the end zone. Like everything you need to see from a local standpoint, from just an everything standpoint, it's hard not to like that, but you take it with a grain of salt. It is Fordham. You're going to learn a lot more this weekend on national TV Saturday night.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways this is a litmus test for them because after this you go Stanford, you go Cal. So this is going to be really a good opportunity for us to see. Now, of course, BC beat Michigan State on national television at the Heights last year.
In bad weather, though.
In bad weather, and Aiden Childs, really talented signal caller for the Spartans.
And you squeaked out late.
East Lansing's a different animal, though. That's a tough environment to play in. So, like I said, this is a real litmus test for this football team. We're going to get a pretty good idea of who they are in this game.
No, 100%. And again, between the bad weather and there was bad offense all around last year. If you remember right, that was a low-scoring game that they won very late. So I'm very curious to see. Michigan State's going to be pissed off. They're going to want, that proverbial revenge. So you're going to learn a lot about this team. Again, national television, primetime, NBC, and then you're also coming home late and going back out to California, next week. So you're going to be affected for these 2 weeks. I'll be interested to see how they sort of respond to both of these spots early on.
Yeah, schedule makers did not do them any favors. That is for sure. Adam Glazer joins the show. How are we doing? We're doing all right, Adam. How are you? Thanks for checking in, man. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Of course, I do want to remind our fine folks out there that you can also catch this show in podcast form. It's uploaded immediately after the show. So you're either watching or listening to us, and we appreciate you listening to us on the New England Football Show podcast as well. You can find that where you consume all of your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, you name it, we're on there. All right, UMass, not good. The Joe Harris-Simiak era gets off to a tough start with a 42-10 loss to the Temple Owls. And I got to be honest with you, Stone, I did not see this coming. I did not see them. I picked them to win this game.
I was going to say, we both said they were going to win last week.
I picked them to win this game. It wasn't even, I didn't see them getting blown out. I thought they were going to win this game. They got off to a decent start, but as the game went on, Temple took over, went up 28-10, kind of blew it open in the second half, ended up winning 42-10. We've seen this script play out too many times with this UMass football team, Kevin. It's the same old song and dance. Decent start offensively, decent start on defense, and then all of a sudden they give up. Something happens to where they're playing with the lead. They're off to a good start. Something happens, changes the complexion of the game, and then the wheels come off and they get blown out. It happened again. So it doesn't matter whether it's Walt Bell, Don Brown, Joe Harris-Simiak. It doesn't matter. It seems to be a trend with this football program that they get off to a good start or a decent start, and then they fall apart and get blown out. Same thing played out this week.
It was exactly what we said couldn't happen, right? Like, brand new era, brand new coach. You're in the MAC. Everything's pointing upward. People are excited, and you lay an egg at home. It's literally the one thing they couldn't do. I will say, I still think they can bounce back because of the schedule. I think you feel the same way. I don't think it's going to be as bad.
I mean, you got Iowa and Missouri the next 2 weeks.
Well, no, but yes, but I meant.
And look, with all due respect to Temple, and Casey Keeler is a really good coach. He's going to get that program going.
Yeah.
With all due respect to them, though, are they any better than the MAC teams you're going to play? And the good news is the MAC, as I said last week, the MAC's not very good right now. A lot of new coaches, and it kind of showed this week. Holy Cross almost beat Northern Illinois. Merrimack almost beat Kent State. Akron got shut out 10-0 by Wyoming. The MAC isn't good, but UMass isn't very good right now either.
No, I hear you. It's more about the MAC for me.
I understand that, but
No, I'm
and
with you.
again, I don't want to jump off the wagon and immediately throw my hands up in despair. But let me ask you this: why the hell should I stay on the wagon? I thought they could win this game, let alone get blown out by 32 points.
No, you
So
have no
why the
reason to.
hell should I stay on the UMass bandwagon after 1 week?
You
Quite
should.
frankly, I don't have a reason to.
No, I completely agree. Um, again, I lean on the Mac right now. I mean, we have the same conversation about UMass this time of year every year since we started the show. So at this point, I have to lean on the Mac. Otherwise, I don't know what else to say about them.
What the hell does that mean? You're leaning on the Mac. Are you staying on the wagon or not? Answer the question.
For now, yes.
Okay. So don't
But
don't tap dance around it by giving me this bullshit answer. I'm
well,
leaning on the
are you?
Mac. Whatever the hell that means.
Are you on or off?
I'm off.
Okay,
I'm off. I'm going to be a
fair.
fraud. I'm accepting fraudum. I'm off. They
That's
could
fair.
run the table and go 11-1. I'm off, and I'm staying off. And I think the world of Joe Harrison-Miak. I think he's a tremendous coach, terrific motivator. And yes, I still believe he's the right guy, and I still think he can get this thing going. But in this moment, right now, I talked this program up for months. I talked myself into thinking that they can turn it around, and this Temple game was going to be the impetus of this turnaround. And forget about laying an egg. They laid an entire dozen for you. You can hide things in them for Easter. I mean, in my opinion, this is a disastrous start for this program.
I
And
agree.
yes, some people will say that the UMass faithful are overreacting, but they do tend to overreact. But can you blame them? They're a psychologically damaged fan base. Of course, they're going to react the way they're reacting. This to me was worst case scenario. If you lose this game 24-21, the tenor is different, the conversation is different. I'm still sitting next to you on the wagon. 42-10, I don't have a reason to stay on the wagon right now. I really don't. And I
No, I
hope
hear you.
I'm wrong by the end of the season, but I have no reason to believe that this team is any better than they've been the last few years.
I hear you. Now that makes this week that much more important. Bryant's not going to be a cakewalk, but you can't lose that game.
No,
Cannot
you
lose it.
have Bryant this week at home.
Yeah.
You've got Iowa and Missouri after that. Even if you win this week, which in theory you should, although
Yep.
we saw it last week, Bryant played pretty well against New Mexico State.
Yep.
They were in that game the entire way. And we know Chris Merritt's a good coach, really good offensive coach. He's going to have this team ready to play. Even if you win this week and you get to 1-1, I'm not getting back on the wagon because then you have Iowa, then you have Missouri, then you get into MAC play, and that's where your point comes in. It's about the MAC. As the season goes on, it's about getting better. Some of those programs are going to get better. Do you believe that this UMass program is going to get better as the year goes on? If they do, I think it's because Harrison-Miak and the staff are good. I'm not sure they have enough there, though, to consistently do it on a week-to-week basis. So, yes, I'm off the wagon. Even if they win next week, and they'll be favored, and they should, I'm still off the wagon. Another good friend of the show, Bill Vaughn, joins us. Worst part of UMass game was the students and fans showed up.
That's
Very disappointing to say the least. Bill, I couldn't agree with you more, my
the
friend.
biggest problem.
1,000-foot home run.
Yep. That's where you're getting hurt the most because you have people buying in, and you hope that buzz continues for those MAC games on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night when
Yes.
kids are freezing their asses off.
Yes, because
Um,
if you suck during that stretch of your schedule, I don't care that it's on national television.
correct.
You may get a good crowd for the first one because of the novelty, but if you don't win that game, it's going to wear off for the last one the week of Thanksgiving when Eddie George and the Bowling Green Falcons come into town.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 11,000 there this weekend, which really isn't a lot when you think about it. Um, you're going to be looking at 2, 3, 4,000 if it continues. So, in that regard, yeah, Bill's right. That's what a disaster is doing that at home in front of those fans.
Yes, and they had a pep rally on Friday night, and they got a great turnout for the pep rally. And the UMass faithful get rewarded with a good start and a horrific finish again in a 42-10 loss against Bryant. As I mentioned, Bryant played New Mexico State pretty tough. This should be a good game. I mean, Bryant's not going to roll into Amherst and play dead. Merritt will have him ready. I think the defense is much improved. They've got a CAA, all CAA candidate, and Michael Audie at defensive tackle. He's going to give this UMass offensive line some problems. UMass better come to play because this Bryant squad proved late on Saturday night that they are better than what we saw last year.
I believe they were down 9-3. We were watching this game late. 9-3 with the ball inside the 3-yard line, turned it over on downs, and from that point on, just couldn't get rolling again. But even still, I think it was 12-3 late in the fourth before New Mexico State ultimately pulled away. So Bryant had plenty of opportunities. They shot themselves in the foot. So if UMass leaves the door open, Bryant could easily win this game.
And we saw this a couple of years ago down at Florida International where Bryant had a
Yeah.
chance to win that game. So they have proven under Chris Merritt that they can go on the road, play these FBS schools, these group of four schools, and be competitive. And I think this week is going to be the case. They believe that they can come up here and win on Saturday. I think this is going to be a really good game. Speaking of Holy Cross, I mentioned them earlier. Tough 19-17 loss to a good Northern Illinois program. Remember, Northern Illinois winning to South Bend and beat Notre Dame last year. Thomas Hammock doing a really good job there. I tweeted this out on Saturday night that in many ways, this loss, and my tweet didn't make sense. A couple people were like, what are you talking about? Let me explain. Even though they lost, I think a game like this puts the Patriot League on notice because what it says is if this Holy Cross team can go on the road and play Northern Illinois that tough and almost win, it does not bode well for the Patriot League. If this team stays healthy and they play current ball, which is run the football, be physical, play good defense, play downhill on defense, and be opportunistic on special teams, this is a team that can win the Patriot League or at least a share of it again and potentially get into the FCS playoffs.
The weird thing is they didn't run the ball well on the road. Jaden Clairvaux had, I believe, 40 yards, but they were still in it late. It was actually special teams that both helped and hurt them. Gave up a long kick return touchdown, had one late in response, but it was too little too late. But I'm with you. Look, you know how I feel about Holy Cross. You mentioned current ball. They're going to be in just about every game they play because of the physicality, because of the nature in which they play. The quarterback thing with Cal Swanson, having his first start with the Crusaders, he's only going to get better. They still have guys like Jake Youngblood at receiver. Cam Santee in the middle at linebacker is sort of that next guy in line behind, from Dobbs and Frankie Montas as well. So I think they're going to be fine. And to your point, that type of game on the road against the MAC opponent, to almost pull that out, that's just a confidence builder, if anything else. Now, having said that, this weekend's a really hard test. They're on the road at UNH, which is obviously a difficult place to play. So we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of a statement game for both those teams. But I'm fully confident in Holy Cross being competitive the rest of the way.
Speaking of UNH, you picked up a 27-10 win over North Carolina Central on Saturday, avenging a loss from a couple of years ago. A lot of new faces in that Wildcats lineup, but it really didn't matter. They came out, played well, executed. Matt Vezza threw for 186 yards and 2 touchdown passes, and the Wildcats just keep rolling along. The program, in many ways, runs itself from the standpoint of players just step up and replace players and the program stays competitive.
I was just going to say that's a program, just a lineage win, right? Like they just keep doing what they do. 16 playoff appearances in 20 years. All the questions going into this week. Even, Rick Santos on this media call last week even said, we haven't had this much question in terms of depth in a long time. Didn't matter. Whatever buttons they push, they find a way to be competitive. NC Central isn't what they were 2 years ago when they came up here and blew out UNH, but to do that on the road and do it, pretty emphatically, it's impressive.
Maine loses to Liberty 28-7, but this was a 7-7 game in the fourth quarter. Liberty scores 3 times in the fourth quarter to pull away. Look, there are no moral victories in football. We know that, but this was still an impressive showing for Jordan Stevens' squad nonetheless. I mean, for the fact that they're able to go down and take on a Liberty program led by Jamie Chadwell, we know his track record of success, a program that has speed and talent and a legitimate NIL initiative that allows it to bring in players from across the country. The fact that Maine was able to go down there and go toe to toe with that program speaks to the job that Coach Stevens and the staff have done to elevate this program and bring it to a place, Kevin, where they can go on the road and compete with an FBS program.
It's funny. We said UMass did the one thing they couldn't do. This was about as good as Maine could do. Aside from coming home with a win, you build positive momentum. You feel good about yourself against an FBS opponent. And I think it puts the CAA on notice a little bit too. Look, that's a team that upset Villanova and Delaware last year, and won 5 games. So that you're right. There's no moral victories, but this is about as close as you can get.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that they're going to have a good year. They went 5-6 last year. I think they could do better than that this year. To your point, they could be a surprise in the CAA. I think we saw that. Speaking of the CIA, URI gained a crown.
The
Gained a crown.
CIA,
Did I say CIA?
yeah,
Speaking of the CAA, oh, there's your chance. Go ahead, Stone. Do it. Do it. Mark me, Stone.
I'm
Do
good.
it.
I
You're
want to
good.
make sure I heard it correctly.
Wussy. Yes, the CAA, not the CIA, not the Central Intelligence Agency. URI gained a share of the CAA title last year. They come back this year, kick off the 2025 season with a 31-20 win over Campbell. Our Charlie Adams was there for this one. They were trailing in halftime. It was 17-14. They didn't play well in the first half. Devin Farrell leads the second half comeback. Rams start the season 1-0. This is a good win for Jim Fleming's squad, in my opinion. In a lot of ways, you needed a game like this. You needed to be pushed in a game like this to start the season.
I was just going to say it's best case scenario for him. You get the win, but you can still, chirp at the kids and have coaching points. But most importantly, you get the win. You only get 12 of them. And to start off with a conference win is not an easy thing to do either, considering Campbell is, arguably one of the sort of in that category with Maine, right? Like, could be a surprise in the CAA. You don't really know. To have a test like that early on, too, to your point, so you're not coasting up until October. Not that they would have, but you know what I mean? To have that kind of test early on, I think it's important, especially for a team that just won, right? Like Fleming wanted them to turn the page. They had to turn it pretty quickly by halftime, if they hadn't already. So I think that's a big spot for them early on.
Yeah, and looking at the FCS independent ranks, how about Merrimack? Almost knocking off Kent State. That was a game going into the fourth quarter. It was tied at one point at 14 apiece. They end up losing 21-17, but a strong showing for Mike Giannetti's Warriors, who once again, they did it last year going out to Air Force and competing, who once again proved, Kevin, that they have the necessary talent to compete with FBS schools, group of 4 FBS schools.
Same thing as Maine. No more victories, but as close as you can get, right? Um, I thought the most surprising thing, and maybe it shouldn't be, was Aiden Pereira with his legs. They used him a lot in the ground game. You hope he can hold up, and if he can, he's a real weapon. But
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
not sure that I'm not sure teams sort of knew about in terms of we know his arm talent, but he's maybe more dangerous with his legs than his arms. So I'll be curious to see how they use him going forward if that continues, and I'm sure it will. Um, but also if they try to balance it out a little bit more too. But again, that's another team where they're gonna make noise and be in every game that they play in.
No, I agree with you on that. And again, it speaks to the type of talent that they recruit there, that they have the necessary pieces to be competitive, but it also speaks to the coaching. I think that the Warriors are going to be much better. Sacred Heart beat Stonehill 12-7 in a competitive game. It's a win for Sacred Heart, but for me, Kevin, if you're Mark Knopfrey, you hope your team played better than this. Now, if you're Eli Gardner, it sucks to lose, but after the year that they had last year at Stonehill, you have to take a lot of positives away from this one. Obviously, the offense needs to be much better. The defense played well, gave you a shot to win it, but you still have to be pleased with how competitive your team was.
Nothing at the half, I believe, in like 2-0 midway through the third. It was an ugly one, but again, you only get 12 of them. So if you're Sacred Heart, you take it and you run. But to your point, if you're Stonehill, it can't get any worse, or you hope it can't get any worse offensively. So, look, they have St. A's at home this weekend. I believe you lose that one, well, then you're already in trouble. But yeah, for Sacred Heart, I feel like that's one you don't flush it because you won the game, but you quickly move on and say, we need to be a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Marist beats New Haven in New Haven's first ever game as a member of the NEC in Division One, 31-14. Marist got off to a fast start. New Haven kept the game competitive. Marist pulled away in the second half. A lot of positives there for the Chargers, especially with their passing game. AJ Duffy, transfer quarterback, had a big day, but not the start that Mark Powell and his staff wanted. But still, nonetheless, I think that the Chargers, considering how much they revamped that roster, they showed a lot of fight in this game.
So I was so surprised. They were 3-point favorites going into that game, their first Division One game. And like Bryant, they had chances to win it. They turned the ball over inside the 5 on downs. Like, again, same thing. They had a chance to not only stay competitive but win that game. I'm with you. They're gonna have their growing pains again. It's a D2 to D1 jump. It is what it is. It's not gonna be pretty. I'm sorry to put you to sleep, but
You
uh,
aren't boring me tonight, no doubt.
um, but no, I was impressed. Again, for their first game at that level, they didn't look like they were struggling or like they didn't belong. So that fan base should be encouraged by what they saw.
Absolutely. And I think that that's the key, right? I mean, look, they're going to have growing pains to your point. Because again, the other thing is, and this is life in this era of the portal, you have a lot of new faces. So there is going to be a period where guys are going to have to get acclimated with each other and playing in this offensive and defensive system. They're going to get better as the year goes on, but this is such an important year for this program from a Division One developmental standpoint. And again, they were competitive. There's no such thing as a moral victory, but there are positives there. And if you're Coach Powell, if you're his staff, you got to find those positives and really reinforce them because they do have talent and they can be more competitive. They're going to get better as they go on. Merrimack, as you mentioned, hosts Sarianides this week. That's an old Division Two matchup. And Lafayette visits Stonehill. Finally, UConn with a 59-13 win over CCSU. One of the big stories in this game was CCSU running back Elijah Howard got hurt. We don't know the extent of his injury. But I got to tell you, man, UConn fell behind early. CCSU scored first. Then the big three of Fagnano, Edwards, and Bell took over. And then the rest is history. This offense is legit. Skylar Bell isn't just one of the best receivers in New England. He's the best receiver in New England. He's one of the best receivers in the country, man. He's going to be in the Bolitnikov conversation and could potentially win it as long as he stays healthy. He had a monster game. The offense had a monster game. Defense turned it on and adjusted after giving up that early score. Impressive win for the Huskies against a good opponent in CCSU. They were the preseason favorite in the NEC.
Yeah, look, we both thought that game was going to be closer than it was, but I think it just says more about UConn. Um, it's funny we joked that UMass is already making us look bad after we talked them up. UConn's doing the opposite. I mean, we've both been high on the Huskies. I still think 9 or 10 wins is not the bar, but pretty close to it. Like the expectation should be 9 or 10, I think. And I think that again, it's
I think 10's a stretch. I still think 8-4 is a reasonable record for this team this year.
yeah, that's fine.
But they're good. And some of the UConn fans on X, I thought made a pretty interesting point. How do they stack up to last year's team? I think that this team
early, no?
is going to be better offensively. I still think defensively you're replacing a lot of key pieces from that group last year, but this team has the potential to be just as good, if not better. So when you talk about bars with this program, I kind of think that the bar should be 8 to 9 wins.
Yeah, no, I
And
hear you.
win 10 with a bowl win.
Yeah, that's fair. But just in general, it's again we continue to talk them up. Um, the job that Jim Moore just continues to do, it's going into that job. He didn't really know what he was getting into,
No,
and
he's
the
done a
fact that he
phenomenal job.
yeah, and the fact that he's done what he's done with them, while still calling out coaches in the portal, which is still my favorite thing ever. Um, all the credit in the world to him because again, their bar is much higher than it was when he got there.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you. And I think it's a testament to the job he and his staff have done, not only in terms of what they've done on the field, but what they've also done in terms of recruiting. They're bringing in the right guys that fit culturally. They don't just fit the schemes, they fit the environment. I think he's done a tremendous job. Big test this week. They go to Syracuse, Fran Brown squad, coming off a tough loss to Tennessee, but that's a good football team. So, in a lot of ways, like with Boston College going to Michigan State, we're going to find out a lot about this UConn team when they hit the dome up in Syracuse on Saturday. We're going to find out what they're made of. If they go up there and win, now that the conversation starts to change in regards to what they could do the rest of this way, because again, this is a pretty manageable schedule for the Huskies. All right, now, of course, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that the high school football season kicks off in earnest this weekend. You have games in Rhode Island, New Hampshire, of course, down in Rhode Island. Congratulations to LaSalle head coach Dan Copen, who won his first game as the head coach of the Rams. The Rams picking up a big 28-27 win on Saturday against Chaminade. So big win for them. So they will now turn their attention to BC High. They're visiting BC High on Friday night. Our Mukala Kabongo is going to be there for that one. But high school football season is here. You're going to be at the big one up at Prep when Springfield Central visits St. John's Prep on Friday night. We've got about 5 games on the schedule, plus Hendricken, North Kingstown. We'll have coverage of that game. Our Charlie Adams is going to be there. A lot of good high school football coming your way starting this week, and a lot of good content from your friends here at New England Football Journal coming your way. Make sure you subscribe. Go over to anyfootballjournal.com for $2.99 a month. I don't think you're going to get a better deal than that. So make sure you subscribe to follow along. But really good slate to start week 1 of the high school football season in New England.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to get to Prep on Friday night. We talked about it last week. You in particular, that Springfield Central team isn't getting talked about enough. Well, they probably are, but it's people forget how good they were just a couple years ago. So to start off the season with this matchup, obviously Chris Vargas getting all the attention around New England and really around the country right now. Really interesting matchup to open up, and I'm expecting a shootout. Honestly, I know that Brian St. Pierre, Red Prep team doesn't really give up points very often, but for some reason, I'm feeling a shootout for that one.
Yeah, I think so too. Springfield Central has struggled this summer. They've struggled the last 2 years, but too much talent there for them to struggle as the season goes on. They're going to get the ship righted, and in many ways, this could be a potential Division I Super Bowl preview. We've said that about this matchup in previous seasons, but I think that this one certainly has the potential to be just that, a preview of the Division I Super Bowl. Of course, Springfield Central is also playing Xaverian. Xaverian opens their season on Friday night at Bishop Fee, and our Tim Crowley is going to be there for that one. We also have our Dante Iafredi. He's going to be at St. John, Shrewsbury, and Leominster. So we've got some good coverage. We're still working on getting somebody down to Westerly Scituate, and we're trying to get somebody to go over to Needham at Milton. So still working on that. We hope we can cover those games. Look, we get it. We love covering high school football. That's who we are. That's at our core. That's what we do. We're excited about that, and I know that we're looking forward to having some of the best coverage in New England here. And as we get going here in New Hampshire, we're in Maine. We're going to try to get some games covered up there as well. And, of course, Connecticut starts next weekend as well, so we're going to have some coverage down there as well. Final thoughts here, Stone, before we wrap it up. And before you actually give us your final thoughts, I do want to give our viewing audience an update. It is 17-7 TCU. I don't know why I said that the way I did, but 17-7 TCU with 3:07 left in the first half. Not the start that Belichick was hoping for.
No, they actually UNT just threw a pick 6, so that's where the 17 comes from. But I
Wonderful
couldn't
Max
wait.
Johnson in the second half.
Yeah, I couldn't wait for this game today. I knew I was going to look forward to it, but I didn't realize how much. Like the fact that he's actually coaching in college, it's kind of surreal to watch the whole thing unfold tonight. So I don't know how you felt about it, but to see him in college is until you see it, it's really weird, man.
Yeah. I didn't think about it, but I mean, I see what you're saying. Look, if they lose this game tonight, the gloss is going to start to wear off the baseball card a little bit.
Very
You
quickly.
got to remember with schools like North Carolina, Duke, Kansas, These are basketball schools,
Yeah.
and they want to be good at football. North Carolina, I've said this, and I said it this offseason. North Carolina has wanted to be good in football for a long time. They put the resources into it. Football matters at North Carolina. You don't hire a Bill Belichick if it doesn't matter. It matters. He's going to dwarf Hubert Davis any day of the week. That's not the issue. The question is, does he stick around? If they, let's say, finish 7-5 this year and get to some mediocre bowl game, is that going to be enough? Even if they win it and go 8-5, is that going to be enough to keep him around? That is the question.
Well,
Does he stick around? Because they're going to have growing pains. I mean, I suspect Gio Lopez isn't going to be their starting quarterback all year long. Max Johnson may have to play. He's more experienced. Bottom line is they're going to have some ups and downs. But the question is, how long does a North Carolina fan base stick with him? Because schools like that, and I would put UConn in this category as well. That's another basketball school. They have a tendency to fall back on basketball when the football team doesn't get off to a good start. Because let's face it, some of the fans are bandies. But all of that being said, I would stick with it with Belichick. If he decides he wants to stay there, he'll get them into title contention. Him and Mike Lombardi know what they're doing.
Well, you don't think a Duke's Mayo Bath or the dancing Pop-Tart will make him stick
There's
around?
no way on earth that effing Belichick sits there and has mayonnaise poured on his head. Not going to happen. You saw the interview with Holly Rowe. The guy barely smiled. She was scared for her life.
That was
Okay.
bad.
I highly doubt that if they go to the Duke's Mayo Bowl and they win, Belichick is going to sit there and eat the mayo sandwich. It ain't happening. It's not. And he's not going to stick around to wait for the stupid Pop-Tart to come out of the makeshift toaster. That's not happening either. No chance. He's still the most curmudgeon person on earth. I don't think he's going to change that much just because he's coaching in college.
No, I'm actually expecting him to be back in the NFL next year.
And I think it depends on how this year goes.
Oh, well,
I think it depends on how this year goes. And I also think it depends on whether or not he wants personnel control or he wants to be involved in the front office. If he wants those things at his age, you're not going to see him back in the NFL unless an owner gets desperate. If an owner gets desperate and is willing to give him what he wants, then you'll see him back. But unless an owner's out there that is desperate and says, I want to win, I'm getting older, I don't have time to wait, I need someone who's done it before. Unless that owner exists, and they do, you'll get an owner like that. I'll give you a job right now that a lot of people aren't talking about, that I could see the owner potentially targeting him.
Miami?
That's the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel better win this year. They better win, and they better get in the playoffs, because if they don't, he's out. I don't care how much of an offensive genius he is. He's out. Stephen Ross is getting older. He would fall under the category of an owner that wants to win now. Belichick could potentially be in play for that job.
Not only that, can you imagine if he breaks Shula's record as the Dolphins coach?
Oh, that would be fantastic.
He would love
Shula
it.
would be doing a 180 in his grave. All the 72 Dolphins would be throwing up in their laps. It would be awesome.
Now you say it, I hope that happens more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're curmudgeon-y people, so we root for our fellow curmudgeons.
That's true.
All right, final thoughts here before we wrap it up.
No, I'm just going to say it's our first full weekend. First high school, first college, and, first Patriots game. So as we always say, you won't find coverage like ours really anywhere else. We know there's a lot of options, but when it comes to all of New England, you won't find it anywhere else but here.
Yeah, and again, I think, look, as Kevin just said, there's a lot of great options out there, and we love and respect our colleagues in the industry. What we'd like to think is we do a lot. We do a little bit of a lot in the sense that we try to cover everything. So we'll cover the Pats, we'll cover D1 college. Believe me, we're still hoping we get this thing to a place where we can cover D2 and 3 college eventually. Not quite there yet. And like I said, we're starting high school this weekend. We're going to try to get to as many games as we can. Again, like we said, we know you have other options, but give us a look. Please feel free to subscribe. Again, go over to anyfootballjournal.com to get your subscription today. And while you're there, pick up some gear as well. We've got some fresh gear, although these hats aren't on there yet. But, get in touch with me if you like the lid, and we'll try to figure something out. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of the New England Football Show. For the great Kevin Stone, at least he thinks he is in his own mind, I'm John Sarianides. Till next week, peace.
See ya.